Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son sit down and talk about things in fantasy. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for joining us today for our 40th episode.
Is this really number 40?
It is. It's number 40 already.
Wow.
They just keep piling up. And that doesn't count our couple of patron-only episodes that are already out there, too.
So for us, it's like 44, 43,
when I
40.
say couple, remember, I mean two.
And we're gonna get another one later, soon.
That's true. We are going to record another one soon.
I'm ready and waiting for our 50th. We got 10 more to go for that.
We'll have to have like a party.
I feel like 50th, I will probably have moved before that.
I'm sure you will, yeah. So we won't have any microphone issues because we'll be in separate rooms. All right. Well, Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week, but a good week.
Longer for you than me.
I mean, yes. So you went on vacation.
I did. I just got back.
So before I talk about my not vacation, how was your vacation?
My vacation was very vacationable. I slept in, got up whenever I wanted. Your mother and I were out on the Oregon coast, sitting in a beachside cabin just with this beautiful Pacific Ocean to stare at. And I had all the time in the world to prepare for podcasting. I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of note-taking, and we even did some podcasting, but not for our own show.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, go ahead and I'd say go check out Malkier Talks, where we hopped on and talked about Forsaken. I think I can say that without spoilering.
Yes. I know Jordo is with us here in the Discord today, and he's listened to that episode already. But yeah, if you're not someone who's read all of Wheel of Time, do not listen to that episode. It's definitely spoilerific.
Yeah, a little
But
bit.
it was a lot of fun to talk with Rob about.
It was.
A pet topic, yeah.
And so I was still here while doing that. I actually used your desk, your chair, your setup.
And messed everything up. Okay,
To be fair,
I'm being exaggerative.
I didn't touch most of it for when we recorded. It was later when I used the same space because my mic was already set up for D&D.
Yeah, I could tell
That I
he was
changed
playing
things.
D&D because I came back and I jumped into DT's game Wheel of Time game server on Discord. Now, if you're not familiar with that, I'll drop a link in because that's a fun place you can go and play Wheel of Time trivia. They have a
There's
game.
also general, just like
Yeah,
general
but they have
trivia
Wheel of
and
Time
other things,
themed
but-
trivia about once a month. They also have just pub trivia once a month. Different sorts of game things on there. When we did Watchionary, there's always a link from that server to Watchionary as well. Just a fun place. Well, I got back from vacation, literally just in time to drop my stuff down, run into the office, and turn on Discord and get into the game. And I sit down in front of the computer and drop almost to the floor. Because he lowered the chair
It's
all the way to the
not,
bottom.
like, that's on you because
And I keep it at the top. It was hilarious.
it was not at the bottom. It just was lower.
I'd never lowered it. I had to figure out, how do I raise the chair?
Oh, yeah, it's not that hard. But no, I had been on Zoom doing D&D, and so my camera angles, it was like gonna be chopping my head off if I was up there, and so
And it was no problem.
move things
I
around.
just didn't know he'd done it other than, my office has changed. It was funny. It was a funny moment.
I told him when he got back, I opted to wash dishes instead of fix his office.
Which was amazing. All the dishes were clean. Yes. But yeah, definitely check out DT's game server for Wheel of Time. I actually won. My team won this week for Watch Trivia, and I've never managed to win before, so that was kind of cool.
There's a first for everything.
Yes, there is. What are you drinking today, Zach?
I'm just drinking a beer. It's a Blue Moon. Relatively tasty, but just nice and cold for today.
Now, what kind of Blue Moon?
Well, it's just the standard normal Belgian white. It's not any of the funky like flavored
But
things.
Blue Moon doesn't do any other varieties?
Well, they do like flavored things, but this is like their standard normal.
Okay. So if you're just going to get a Belgian Moon, a Belgian Moon,
If
a
you get
Blue Moon,
it will
it's a
be
Belgian
this
white
Belgian
ale.
white.
Wheat ale.
It's got like
That's their beer.
orange peel. Yeah, it's like
Aye.
orange peel brewed taste thing.
So you didn't have to work real hard at that one then to make your drink.
Oh no, I just opened it.
Jordo approves of it. It sounds tasty. I made something much more creative, and as usual, I'll drop it in our Instagram with the recipe. I took a picture, but it's not up there yet, but you will find it.
I'm curious what the name is because it looks Okay, I'm going to take some guesses about what's in this drink. Is there Midori?
Yes.
Is there pineapple juice?
That's 2 out of 3. Yep.
Is there sour mix?
No, just vodka.
Just vodka. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So it's called a Pearl Harbor. And it's fun looking. Well, you know, all the pineapple juice takes you to Hawaii. Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Now, Midori,
Yeah, that's
being a Japanese
that's
melon
where I was
flavor.
going with it.
Oh, okay. I see where someone maybe named it a Pearl Harbor for that reason, but maybe tasteless? I don't know. We don't have any listeners in Japan yet, so we should be okay. Oh, look at Oh, in the Discord. Enough of those will torpedo the episode. This gets worse and worse. Moving on.
Going down, hopefully we don't sink. Let's just keep going.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So we have 38 episodes that are published already.
Yes.
And we are over 13,000 downloads and plays already on those. Mind-boggling.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Over 13,000. So all of you that are hearing this, thank you. We are just wowed and awed that you're willing to keep listening to our content. We appreciate it.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, son. Yes, we are recording on Father's Day. And it won't be Father's Day when they hear this. But it's great to have a father-son podcast and to do it on Father's Day.
I'm pretty sure I told Rob that I was probably going to forget, but...
But you did, first thing you did this morning. You came down and you said, Happy Father's Day. And then you got some coffee.
Well,
So
I looked
it
for
even
the coffee.
came
It
before the coffee.
wasn't ready quite yet.
One more piece of business before
Yes.
we jump into today's great content.
Kind of business.
Yeah, and it's just to point out that we also, this week, besides doing podcast collaboration with Malkier Talks, we also did something with Tales of a Red Arm podcast. Justin and James do a real deep dive, Wheel of Time, chapter by chapter focus, and they just finished up The Eye of the World.
So we went over and we chatted. We talked about some things from that book, and so that's another one that will be coming out. Not sure exactly when.
Yeah, they're doing just some special episodes before they move into The Great Hunt, and this was one of them. And so you can watch that. When I see it, I'll drop a link with one of ours, too, to go, hey, see what we talked about, what kinds of things. It was just a fun episode. It wasn't deep content. It was just 10 different questions that had to do with random things related to The Eye of the World.
Chit-chatting about the book, the characters, and trying not to spoil too much.
Right. So if you've read Eye of the World, you'll enjoy this. If you haven't read Eye of the World,
You're probably
not listening
this
to us at this
episode,
point. Yeah. But
considering we're over halfway through the Great Hunt.
that's right. We are well over halfway through the Great Hunt. We're getting to the final push.
Yes, because
Okay.
we are now at chapter 35.
And we have 3 chapters up for today. So
Let's do it.
let's get into it. Chapter 35 is called Steadying Sofu.
I still think you got
Sofu.
it. There you go. You got to say the T
Gotta
enough.
That's
Sofu.
right. We had that whole conversation last time.
Just because it really drives in the importance of the
Yes, okay.
T. I don't know what I'm saying.
Rand and the others are making their way to... I'm going to mess up how to say steading. It's so in my head now.
Setting Sofu.
Steading Sofu. All right. In hopes of using the Waygate there, which is their next best chance to catch Fain and recover the Horn of Alir and the Shader Logoth dagger before more time passes.
Yes.
I mean, the urgency's real.
They believe that Fain can't open the chest. He would have done it earlier, but he's a ways away. If too much time passes, he'll find somebody and they'll be able to open it or something and get the horn, call the heroes, all this mess. Plus, there's Matt.
Yeah. As Discord's saying, the clock is ticking.
Time keeps on ticking.
Slipping.
No, I wanted the ticking because we can't be copywritten.
Okay.
Just change the words. It's a parody then.
I see. But yeah, and he's deteriorating fast. It's very obvious we need to get that dagger. And if the Ways is their shortcut to get there fast enough, if they were to just ride there, it will take them months to get across the continent to Falme, where they believe, according to the hint that was dropped, a little message that was left, that's where Pat and Fain is gone. So the one way was blocked by Mok and Shin. Now we're going to go do another Waygate and hopefully get in that one. But Ingtar, man, he is still grumbling. He's like,
oh, yeah. It's a
we're
huge
riding
trick.
to this steading. It's the opposite direction from going to Falme. So he already knows if we were to just ride to Falme, it would take way too long.
But we get almost a step further of going, Fain wouldn't have told them where we were actually going. He's just sending us on a wild goose chase, and he's going back to the Blight or something.
But then, if he believes that, why should he be upset that they're riding the wrong direction? You know, so Ingtar is conflicted.
He's a mess.
Exposition reminds us, then, that when we're going to this steading, that creatures of the shadow are reluctant to enter a steading.
Yes, we saw that in the first book when Egwene and Elias and Perrin and the wolves were going and fleeing from the ravens, and they got into the steading in safety.
Now, Aes Sedai are also reluctant to go into a steading.
Yeah.
What's the deal, Zach? What have we learned in the past that you can remind us of, and Loyal reminds us of in the conversation here? Why would they be uncomfortable going into a steading?
You cannot access the one power inside of a steading.
Not even can access.
Can't even feel it.
It's like the true source doesn't exist. It's not there. You can't sense a thing. Very unsettling. Yes, withdrawal symptoms for these twitchy, addicted
cold turkey,
source users. Yep. So when they do finally cross into the border of the steading, nothing looks different. Rand is a little like, I kind of thought there'd be a change.
Yeah, it'd be like we go from this weird grass to suddenly a vibrant, wonderful forest and grove, and no, it's just the same.
Yeah, everything looks the same. But they do feel a difference. They all feel a difference.
Even those who can't feel the power, like, noticeably are like, something's a little different.
Mm-hmm. We get Rand's point of view. He feels like a chill as he passes through, but then immediately feels this, a sense of refreshment. Perhaps like a weight is off someone's shoulders. And everybody's feeling that. I don't know if everybody feels the chill. That might be the loss of the connection to the source. But they all feel like, this is nice. Mm-hmm. Again, everything looks the same, but it feels palpably nicer. And Loyal certainly feels that big time. He comments on, it's good to be in a steading again.
Yeah, it feels nice.
So he's glad to be back here, despite him having been rather reluctant to head here in the first place. And in this chapter, we're going to learn more about why.
Yeah, we'll see
he
a
was
little
reluctant.
bit.
Yes.
But shortly after they pass through this area, a new Ogier arrives.
Ta-da! Steps out from behind a tree, and we get to meet a Lady Ogier.
Let's be real here. They don't look that different.
Unless you're an Ogier.
You can totally tell huge differences if you're of the species, but
Sorry, the way you said that, I just had a Monty Python flash. Huge tracts of land. Sorry.
That one went over my head.
I'll have to remind you where that's from. Anyways, we've got this Lady Ogier, and Rand senses she's no older than Loyal. So she's old, but very young for Ogier. So maybe she's like 85, 80.
The equivalent of a new adult in human terms.
She introduces herself as Aerith, daughter of Iva, daughter of Alar, and welcomes them. Then comments on how unusual it is to have so many humans visiting the steading at once. So apparently there's more humans here already.
Now, when I first read that, I didn't get that understanding. Like, it makes sense. And you go, yeah, there's more humans in the steading. But I'm also sitting here going, there are a decently large number of humans in and of themselves. So
True.
When I first read it, I was just like, oh, she's thinking it's weird. There's a lot of people.
I could see your confusion, but
no, there's more people here.
Yeah, she's referencing there's already humans, and now, even more humans. Oh boy, because they just don't get that many human visitors.
Yeah, they're so hasty.
On Aerith's request, the Shannara soldiers, for the most part, remain outside the steading. She mentions, Ogier, we're peaceful, and having that many armed men come into the steading, it would just all be so uncomfortable. So would you not mind, please?
I wish I could roll an insight check on Aerith here.
Yeah?
Just to see what she really's on about.
Oh, come on. Ogier are loyal good. Absolutely.
Lawful good, but...
Lawful good. Loyal. See, Ogier. Sorry. Lawful good. So you don't have to doubt her intentions.
No, we're gonna see something shortly that I think she doesn't explain her full motives in keeping them all out.
I think it was genuine, though. No, I think this was just genuine.
It is genuine in kindness, but I don't think she says everything.
See, I disagree with what you're hinting at.
We'll get that.
Because when that happens, she's just completely flummoxed and shocked. So it didn't even cross her mind that would be a problem.
I don't know about that.
Okay, we can talk about that in a moment. So certainly, no problem. We'll have the Shanarans stay out, and the only Shanarans that come with the party are Ingtar and Huron. Everybody else going to wait outside the steading. A moment of humor here. Mm-hmm. We get to talk about Aerith a little bit again, because Loyal, man, he is clearly taken by how pretty she is. Mm-hmm. Now, again, in human terms, nothing pretty at all.
She's an Ogier.
Very Ogier.
Very big ears, big eyes, big eyebrows.
Oh, those eyebrows. Apparently, as Ogier goes, she's a looker. And to hear Loyal fawning over this, it was cute. I'm like, aww. Loyal comments again on how good it feels to be back in a steading. Not that the longing was taking me, you understand. But no, they don't understand, so Loyal explains. Zach, give us a crash course. What is the longing about?
Basically, because of the breaking of the world happening, the Ogier lost their steading, spent a bunch of time outside of it, and have now an ingrained issue when they are leaving steadings. They found them again, but now are like physically tied to them in a way that if they spend too long away from it, bad things happen. They can even like lose the will to live and die.
Yeah. So it's a serious thing, and they have to pay attention to that. They just cannot be away too long. But he has not been away too long, he's clarifying.
To me, it always kind of rang similarly, this idea of the longing with what we got described it would be like for someone who had been gentled.
Losing the will to live.
That you're missing something
a vital
important
connection
to you,
that you need.
Can't get it back, and it slowly drains away from you.
Okay. Now, Discord is asking, is Loyal being honest about this? Being truthful? Was he maybe feeling some longing already and he just wants to deny it? Or is he completely genuine? Nah, I'm fine still.
Well, I think this might be a little bit of a determining factor of we don't fully understand how the longing works enough as to whether it's like you reach a certain point and a switch flips and you're hurting the longing, or literally every step outside it's slowly building and eventually it reaches a tipping point.
Yep.
I like to think the former, so yeah, he is feeling the longing. In this little time here, it's good for him.
A little booster shot.
Yeah.
Like he took his vitamin D. Spend a little time in the steading.
Sure.
There you go. Eventually, now we're going to follow Aerith further into the steading now. And they arrive at an Ogier town. There's a community within the steading. But you got to go further in. And in fact, you go into where they find the great trees. These massive and incredible sights. Robert Jordan appears to have modeled them upon like great sequoia redwoods, but not exactly. Because as I read it, it sounds like the great trees are not one type of tree. They're numerous kinds of trees, but they are massive and incredible, like they are plus size of regular trees.
That's fair. I never really considered them being multiple kinds of trees. I was just like, they're big trees, maybe a little magical. But I think you're actually right on how it's
I always
described.
thought of them just as like redwoods. But when I was reading this chapter again and preparing, it seemed to be they were describing the great trees as maples and oaks and elms. I mean, different types. There were just these huge, massive things.
Huh.
So, listeners, if you think I misinterpreted this time, please let me know. Clarify for me. I might have to research that a little bit more.
I'm willing to go with it just because I think it's really cool, this idea of Ogier are really big, so their trees are really big too. But they're just normal trees. They're just all really big.
Well, and they honor these trees. They take care of these trees. Maybe their care for them extends their lives. Normally a tree is not going to live thousands of years. A redwood will. But it doesn't matter how good you are to a maple tree. It's not going to live that long.
It'll live a long time.
It'll live a long time, but it's not going to live thousands of years. It has an expiration date on it. And maybe in this world, with the care the Ogier provide, they go so much longer.
Especially their singing, their tree singing, like Jordo points out, that we saw Loyal do back with the Green Man afterwards, and that whole
there could be something
talent.
To that. And they have maybe some symbiotic relationship that when the Ogier are with the trees and the trees are with the Ogier, everything's better.
But as far as I'm aware, this is something special to steadings. The great trees only exist in steadings.
And
as far
groves.
As I'm aware.
Ogier groves have
Can they have great trees
They
there?
do. They do. They plant the great trees in those places as well.
Okay.
Like in Tarvalon, in their grove.
There is a great tree?
Yeah. Multiple. There's great trees there. Yeah, and they talked about earlier where, Loyal is crying over the groves that have been
the
cut
groves
down like
being
in
chopped down,
Cairhien.
yeah, but I didn't realize that was because there were great trees there.
Yeah.
I thought it was just
Yeah.
they were special
I
groves.
believe it was mentioned
like
specifically.
cuttings from great trees that were planted and turned into trees.
I don't know if you'd plant a great tree with a cutting.
Well, I mean, so apple trees do this weird
that's
thing
different.
where we splice bits of a tree into an existing tree, and so none of the apples we eat are actually from actual apple trees. It's a really weird process that I encourage you to go look into because
It
it blows
interesting.
my mind.
I think we're getting down a tangent here, though, talking about the trees.
We're going out on a tree branch.
We're going down the branch.
We should leave it alone.
Yep, it's getting a little too thin. All right, so we do learn specifically a little bit more about the trees when Loyal is talking here now.
Yes.
And one of those things is that they never cut them down.
Nope.
They do occasionally die, but it's rare. They last a long time. Most of these trees that they're seeing right here in the Ogier Grove go back to, the breaking. Not that they were here at the breaking. They were like saplings that survived and were then planted here when the steading was found again.
Notably, very few great trees actually did survive the breaking of the world.
Yeah.
So violent was it.
It was pretty intense. All right, so they're in this community now. They're in this town.
We get to see lots of Ogier.
Lots of Ogier.
Doing lots of Ogier things.
Yep. None of them really are like, strangers. No, they're just going about their business, and they seem very relaxed and content.
Full of Ogier people.
We come to learn that the Ogier here, this one was surprising, actually live in mounds in the ground. So
That is kind of
they
weird to
walk
me.
downstairs. Yeah, they disappear into these mounds when they go in their homes or in the central buildings of the town. Yeah.
It's just weird.
But if you think about it,
It makes sense.
I mean, they don't want to hurt the trees, so they're
So
not
they-
going to build out of lumber.
Nor are they going to secure things into or on it, dig into the tree itself, maybe in and amongst the roots and stuff, but it's a little weird.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reaction they have. It's like
Well,
a little different.
I think this is a moment where Robert Jordan gets to kind of subvert our expectations a little bit, because he gives us these giant people with weird features and things, and then gives them traits that we associate from earlier fantasy with shorter people, like dwarves living in the ground, building things.
Because they need pretty big mounds.
Exactly. It's a weird juxtaposition that we're not used to.
Interesting, yes. Aerith notes the steading's other guests now, as we see 3 human women coming into view. And they are Aiel women. And Ingtar identifies them as maidens of the spear as he steps away from Varen and Aerith and loosens his sword in his scabbard. Okay, whoa, wait. Okay, we already know from the past that Shannarians and Aiel have a tense relationship.
Yeah.
And this is the
That's
first time
fair.
that we're seeing female Aiel. We have seen male Aiel on a couple of occasions.
I believe we only really saw one once so far. It was when they met the one on the road.
Okay.
His name was... Oh, goodness.
Urian.
Was it actually Urian?
Yeah, I think that's right. But now, females. Wow. So, And we're hearing a new term for them, like we said, maidens of the spear.
So that term did kind of get dropped the previous time we met one as well.
Talking about that some women also
Yeah,
battle.
he wouldn't draw against a woman, well, unless they were wed to the spear or a maiden or something.
Yep. Robert Jordan does give us a detailed description of these women, and we're not going to go all through that again, but suffice it to say they're garbed very similarly to the Aiel men that we'd met before. All those natural colors, they could blend right into rocks or woods. They're described as tall for women, each with short-cut hair except for shoulder-length tail at the back. And as we've seen with Aiel before, they've got short bows on the backs, quivers and long knives hanging from the belts, and they each carry a small shield with a cluster of spears.
Those spears being the very long-tipped spears.
Yes.
They look dope. I'm just saying. I will also, however, say the last time we ran into an Aiel, a bunch of Shannarans charged, and Ingtar and others were like, "Hey, yo, stop! Don't do it. He's clearly not gonna attack us. He doesn't have his veil up." These ones don't have their veil up either.
Well,
Yet.
yeah, when the women see them, they react, Shanarans! And quickly veil their faces, crouching low and advancing with shields and spears at the ready. It's like they're ready to throw down.
To be fair to them, Ingtar loosened his sword first.
He hadn't drawn it.
No, but he loosened it.
Yeah. Ingtar now draws it in response, a defensive response. He warns Varen and Aerith, stand clear. They were the three that were in front. Everybody else had been trailing them because Aerith was leading with Varen and Ingtar. That's why he's pushing them aside, and saying, I've got this, basically.
And then Rand goes, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that too. Pulls out his sword.
Yep, his heron mark blade comes out, and Perrin, what?
He pulled out his sword.
Oh, he gestured. You can't see it. He's pulled his imaginary sword right here.
He looked at me like I went insane.
And Perrin
Thanks, Dad.
is freeing his axe from its holder, and Matt, he's like, what are you guys doing? You're crazy. I don't care if they're Aiel, they're women. So he's not going to fight. So what's Matt's point?
Well, Matt's point is they're women. I'm not gonna hurt a woman.
And why?
Period.
Where does that come from? Why is Matt saying that?
It comes from his sensibilities in his hometown, what he was raised with back in Emmonsfield, that you take care of women. You don't put them into a fight. You don't let them get endangered, and you put down your life defending, not attacking them.
This is a very ingrained thing for the Emmonsfield folk. Now, Rand and Perrin are preparing their weapons.
Matt just seemed to cling firmer to that.
Okay, and maybe that's something we will continue to see in these characters, and maybe in Matt more than anyone else.
And clearly not everyone in this world has that thought process to things.
Not everyone.
But Matt at least is demonstrating here, no.
And the two rivers, it's, they're old-fashioned. Very traditional is kind of the sense that we're getting.
In a lot of ways, at least.
Both Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron and
Vareth. Shall I call him that? Yeah, both Aerith and Varen Sedai are trying to talk down the two groups. But the Aiel, they keep steadily advancing, step by step. And our guys, they're steeling themselves for this fight.
Well, Matt, not so much. He's ready to just run.
Yeah, he's going to get back on his horse, head the other direction. And Loyal, he's not going to fight. He's saying, remember the pact! But everyone's ignoring him. And then another Ogier steps up right between the two groups, insisting they all put their weapons away, sounding scandalized. Looking at Rand's group, he acknowledges, for you there may be some excuse, but then he turns to the Aiel women and brings up the pact again.
Yep.
So apparently there's a deal that everyone is safe in a steading. That's the pact in some way is that, you come here, you do no violence.
Mm-hmm.
No fighting, no hand even raised against each other. I mean, if you want in, you respect that. And the Aiel, well, they look very chagrined now. They ask forgiveness of the Ogier. And they basically say, we saw armed men here in the land of the tree killers where everyone's against us, and we reacted. We apologize.
But there very much is a sense of this Ogier looking at Shanarans and Rand, Matt, Perrin, all them and going, y'all don't know any better well enough. Like, you should, but you don't. But you Aiel, you guys know.
Yep, shame on you.
So apparently the Ogier and Aiel have this deal stronger than other people.
Perhaps. But now, okay, the situation is diffused. And the Ogier, he turns to Varen and bows, sharing that he has come to take her to the elders, who wish to know why an Aes Sedai is here in the steading. Again, Aes Sedai don't usually like to come into steadings.
No, not really.
And why she's in the company of armed men and one of their own youths, which Loyal appears to try to disappear.
You ever seen someone who's really, really big try to disappear? I mean, I manage it because I'm 6 foot, but I'm also really, really tiny in other directions.
We pick up a few things then of note. The Aiel may have backed down, but they're still staring at Rand's group in a rather unfriendly manner. They still seem sort of hostile.
Staring spears.
Nice. Particularly at Rand. The 3 women, there was 2 that are more mature, one that was clearly young. And she's the one that's the most filled with contempt in her look, even horror at this person. And especially that he has a sword, and we're talking about Rand, that he has a sword. What is her deal? Why is she so irritated that Rand is holding a sword?
Well, specifically, Rand, we've heard it time and time again, looks like an Aielman.
So do you think she's assuming he is?
Either is or is in some way connected to the blood of Aielmen in some way. It's reminiscent and reminds her that when she then sees an Aielman and a sword, that's a problem for her. And I don't know if we've really seen why that's a problem yet.
No, we have not.
But that's a problem for her.
This one, I have to admit, and I hate throwing shade at Robert Jordan at all, but this one didn't make a lot of sense to me. Because she clearly can't really think he's an Aiel. Because no Aiel would be dressed like this.
And yet,
no Aiel would have a sword.
Every one of his people, every Westlander goes, you're an Aiel. Everyone thinks he's Aiel.
Yes. But
he has to look so much like Aiel that Aiel would think he looks like Aiel.
Everyone who isn't an Aiel thinks he looks like an Aiel. I get that. But the Aiel look at him and might say, you look kind of like an Aiel. But he's not an Aiel, obviously, because he would not be dressed or acting in this manner. So that's why I'm like, they could, perhaps have questioned. But for her to be so mortified that he's wearing a sword, I'm like, huh. And I don't know that I get that.
It's not necessarily, yes, this person is Aiel. But it's you see someone who looks like they should be sticking to certain ideals or systems, and they aren't. Everything about that is just disgusting.
Okay.
And so the fact that he looks Aiel, whether she believes he is or not, it's like seeing her worst nightmare in front of her.
All right. That is a way to look at it then. The Aiel, we learn, are supposedly here in the setting for Sungwood, according to Aerith. Remember, a few Ogier have this talent, the ability to sing items out of trees, and we've seen Loyal do it a couple of times.
Yeah, he sung like a quarterstaff when they were in the portal world thing.
Now, humorously, as Aerith mentions how the tree singing talent is rare these days, but we have two, and she's very proud. And then she goes on to mention that she's heard Steading Shangtai has a young tree singer who is very talented. And that's the humor, because she's talking about Loyal and doesn't even realize it. He is the talented young tree singer.
So good job, Loyal. You're talented.
Perrin and Matt, they don't believe the Aiel are here for Sungwood. Instead, they believe this is part of that search for He Who Comes with the Dawn that they heard about from Urien.
And they believe is possibly Rand.
They had concluded that back then, but they've never shared this story with Rand yet. So now Rand's like, what is this about? And he gets that full story from them, that meeting with Aiel by Kinslayer's dagger. And from that event, Matt and Perrin concluding, Rand, you're the one they're looking for. You're an Aiel. You've never lived in the Waste. You are outside the Waste. You gotta be the one.
Which now throws in an extra piece as to why was that one Aiel so upset. Maybe she's making a connection here, but that's being put right next to he's carrying a sword, he's dressed like an outlander, there's all this mess. It's more complicated.
Rand is not amused at this theory that
no,
Matt
he's
and Perrin
not a
have come
bloody
up with.
Aiel.
That's right. I'm Two Rivers folk. Tam Althor is my father. We get all that again.
That.
Aerith has left them in a place where they can relax, while Varen has gone off with the other Ogier. This is a room that appears to have been set up with humans in mind, but even so, the furniture is a little too big. It's like, oh, nice try, Ogier. You downsized it, but no, they're not all actually 7 feet tall.
Okay, but is that really that big of an issue? I mean, for one, Rand probably everything fits fine. It's Varen who there's a problem for, probably. She's the short one.
But Varen's not here. She went
exactly.
already.
So is it really that big of a deal? And secondly, if it was, say, bedding, because I assume if the furniture is all like too big for comfort, they probably have rooms and beds, and they're probably too big of beds. But I've never complained about having a bed that was too big.
But I think of your mother. She's short. Compared to us, she's short.
Harsh.
And we go places, and she sits down, and a chair is a little too big so that her feet are dangling.
Yeah, that's fun. You get to
that
swing
is not
your feet.
Comfortable.
Whee!
It's not comfortable. So that's the experience they're having here. Everything's just a little too big to be actually comfortable.
I wish I got to swing my feet more in chairs.
No, you outgrew that a long time ago.
A long time ago. It's been, what, a decade at least?
Now, while they're waiting, Cairhien comments on how wonderful the air smells. Now, that's not just specifically the smell of the air.
No, that's Huron.
Cairhien. Yeah.
It's, what's in a name?
Ah!
Smelling a lack of smell, almost.
That's right. As a sniffer.
He smells violence.
Right. And
This
it's
is
like,
a place that doesn't really
there's never been
have
violence here. No one's ever been killed accidentally or on purpose, I should say.
I mean, maybe there was, like, the occasional little scuffle of things when people forgot the pact, more or less. But it's very rare, and it's, like, maybe once in the past few thousand years.
So he likes it here. He's never had a place that smelled so
yeah,
violence-free.
It's great.
Well, they may be safe, because steadings are safe for everyone, but Loyal, he does not look comfortable.
Nope.
He looks stressed and worried. And as they've been waiting, it's compounding his stress because multiple Ogier girls and women have stopped by, one after another, just checking in to be sure they didn't need anything. Are you guys fine? Is there anything I can get you? And no, they always hear, no, we're fine, and then they leave, and it's one after another
Loyal
after
is
another.
Experiencing what Rand used to talk about seeing in the Two Rivers, or what he experienced at the party in Cairhien. He's getting a lot of attention.
Oh, he's getting checked out.
And it's not really wanted.
Jordo in Discord say Loyal must be good looking.
He's got great eyebrows.
I think he is. I think he's the epitome of a nice young lad for an Ogier.
Well, I don't know if I would go quite that far, but Robert Jordan does have a tendency to make his main characters ridiculously attractive.
Okay, that's probably true. But what he explains to the rest of them is what happens with Ogier. The tradition here is that when a girl takes note of a Ogier lad that she's interested in, she will make that known, typically telling her mother, and her mother will then go talk to that Ogier boy's mother, and they'll work out an arrangement, and ta-da! You will now be getting married. And the Ogier boy has no say about it. No, he just gets told, hey, this has been set up. You are now going to be married. So what he is pretty sure is happening is all these girls and even their moms are coming by, checking him out and deciding, shall we make a move on this one? Yeah. And that's the last thing he wants. He does not want to get married because he has this belief, once he gets married, all the fun stops.
Yeah, he's not allowed to wander about and see the world and gain the research for his books. And I mean, he wasn't really allowed to do that in the first place, but he just went. And, well, because he just went, if he gets married, he's going to have to be really brought to heel, so to speak.
Now, there are people in our world that also buy into this theory, by the way, that once married, all the fun stops. You're laughing at something in the Discord.
Yeah.
It's like picking out the lobster out of the tank before dinner.
Oh.
Loyal feels like he's the lobster, and they're checking out. Which one do they want? Do we want this one?
That's
for our
harsh
meal?
but accurate.
So, he is pretty terrified, though, that the end result of all this is that someone's going to want him to be settled down, matched up, and is going to send a message back to his mom. And he won't be able to keep having his travels, his fun. Now, Matt,
going on with what you were saying just there
yeah.
for a moment, throwing in my 2 cents, marriage doesn't have to mean that you actually settled down. It could just mean you have a partner in crime now.
It's all about marrying well. You got to marry the right person.
The right person for you, and maybe that is settling down. Maybe it's not.
If you feel you're ready for it at that point. Yeah. If you feel like you marry someone and therefore you have to change everything about yourself for her, you're marrying the wrong person. It should be someone that it is a good match for. And they enjoy your friends, enjoy your hobbies. They may not do everything with you, but you don't have to stop everything that you were passionate about because, now you have a ball and chain. Okay, you're just giving the thumbs up there.
I felt targeted. But it's good.
Not with your current girlfriend.
That's an X.
Yeah. Your girlfriend's been on the podcast with us.
Oh, she's great.
Which you all will hear about at the next episode.
The previous episode before this.
Right, the one that is just before this one.
And Jordan was there live.
Yeah.
So.
If you've been listening in sequence, then it's the one you just listened to. You got to meet his girlfriend. She's cool.
Great.
Yeah. So Matt finds all of this talk about how Ogier do this marriage thing to just be ridiculous. He makes loud proclamation, "Among us, men do the choosing, and no wife can stop a man doing what he wants."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, really, Matt? You really think that's how it goes? Matt's a little naive here. Even Rand, listening to Matt say that, is going, wait a second. Thinking back to Emmons Field and how things were when I was growing up, and
I like to think Matt
that's how it works.
wants to believe that's how it works. Not that it actually is. He just wants it to be true.
Yeah, perhaps he will have his eyes opened over time.
We'll see.
Perhaps. At that moment, that Ogier from before steps in and announces the elders would like to see all of them now. Loyal almost drops the book he's looking at. The boys try to reassure Loyal, saying, if the elders try to make you stay, we'll tell them we need you. You've got to be allowed to come with us. It's important. And the chapter ends with Loyal voicing the options before him. Stay and get married, or travel the ways. Life is very unsettling with Taviran for friends.
Hey, he called them his friends.
He did. He also called him Taviran, which Matt does not like to hear.
Yeah, none of them really do. But, it's better than someone telling you you're the dragon.
Uh-huh.
Rand would rather be just Taviran.
Probably. We go right into chapter 36. This just continues, and it's called Among the Elders, so that's a pretty self-explanatory title.
Yeah, we quickly kind of skim through them walking, and then suddenly are there.
Yep, they come to a really big grassy mound, biggest they've seen in the entire town. And they are encouraged to descend the steps to enter. Loyal is a nervous wreck by this point. He's been getting more and more jittery the whole walk over to the mound. And Rand sees this, and he says, why don't you just wait outside?
Oh, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, the elders probably just need to speak with us. Yeah, Loyal, he just pulls out a book. Very grateful. I'm going to relax. Have a seat. Go ahead. I mean, the other Ogier, he kind of raises an eyebrow. You're like, really? But Rand even says it to him. No, he'll be fine out here. Don't worry about it. So they enter this room, and it's huge. At least in scale, it could be like a room in a palace. But of course, it's just all underground.
Mm-hmm.
They see before them 7 Ogier elders. And Varen is seated before those elders, facing the elders. To Rand, these elders, they practically ooze wisdom. He's never met people that seem to have this air of authority and confident, serene, just wisdom.
Approximately how old do you think the elders here are?
Hundreds of years old. I
mean,
don't know how old.
We loosely learned Ogier lives somewhere like 300 to 500, right?
I think they live longer than that. I would have to double check.
Well,
I did not do my research to find that out.
I think we got told when Loyal met Rand that it had been like 3 generations since the fall of Manetheren. So that was like 3 generations for 1800 years, give or take. Somewhere in there.
Okay.
So that puts a generation at like 500 to 600 years.
I think I'll need to look that up again, just to ease my curiosity then. But maybe about that.
But it's somewhere in there enough that I think it would make sense that the elders are like 600-700 years old. They're old.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. Very experienced, very knowledgeable. They've seen a lot, and they've learned not to be hasty. So here they are in front of these people. It's probably a little intimidating as well. The head elder, an Ogier woman named Alar, shares with the rest of them that Varen has expressed their need to use the Waygate. And why? But, that has not been allowed in over 100 years. Ingtar starts to go off on a rant, but Alar tells him not to be so hasty. The ways are dangerous. Rand shares that they are aware, and they have seen Mak and Shin already. But Alar notes being aware of the danger is not enough. They need to truly understand the danger. So at that point, she has an Ogier led into the room, one of the last ones to have used the ways. And he is just an empty shell, a living body with no mind, no
Alar,
soul.
we get it, but put your scare tactics away. we definitely get it. We've been through the ways, we've experienced Machin Shin. We see it. It's bad, but you're just trying to scare us.
But definitely wants, before they are going to allow anything, them to truly be able to visualize what could happen to you.
I mean, it's clear here to me, this is not an actual, I want you to be aware. This is I want to scare you out of your current course so that I don't have to tell you no.
I felt more that the Ogier want to truly feel confident that if they're going to say yes, they're saying yes to people who have made a fully informed decision. Not, we're just overconfident and we can do this.
I'm still just going to sit in the camp of going, I don't think they want to say yes, period.
Well, no, I'll agree there. They don't want to say yes.
They might, but they don't want to.
Varen also acknowledges, we know the risk, but the need to regain the Horn of Valir is too great to avoid the risk. They have to take this chance. They must take this chance. So be it. So Alar will lead them to the Waygate herself. Now, we had earlier in the chapter, well, in last chapter, we had Alar mentioned already. Do you remember where her name came up already? I don't think I'd caught
Alar
this until this time through.
Aerith's grandmother?
Yes, exactly. Unless there's another Alar, but I'm pretty sure this is the Alar.
Aerith, daughter of someone, daughter of Alar.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a familial connection to the first Ogier they met.
Even after you telling me that, I can't believe I pulled that out.
Ha! All right, so we'll lead you to the Waygate. But now she shifts the topic to Loyal, commenting on him being far from home. And as promised, Rand speaks up, identifies their need for Loyal, and Perrin and Matt, I love this, they also speak up for Loyal in their own ways. And Matt's like, and he pulls his own weight, you know, he's a nice Ogier, you know, just no real need things, just, but we like him.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I think the boys don't necessarily help the case here. They're trying to, like...
They're good wingmen,
yeah,
Discord says. Yeah.
They're trying.
They're buds.
But they're also trying in, like, human ways.
Well, Varen pulls out the ace card, though.
Yeah.
And she says, well, we actually do need him along. He has made a point of studying the ways. He knows how to decipher the guidings in there. So for us to actually navigate them, Loyal needs to be our guide.
Mm-hmm. He was even the guide once before. I don't remember if she mentions that, because I don't think they want to mention that they used the ways before. But it is true.
So Alar then speaks directly to Rand. She notes she can sense he is Ta'Veren. And a very strong one, because, you know, for her to actually be able to sense it, she's saying, you must be very strong. We Ogier don't have much gift in being able to notice
have the
Ta'Veren.
Talent to, like, see Ta'Veren.
Right. So for me to be able to tell, you must be strong. And that has possibly sucked Loyal in. That he is part of the pattern that the web is weaving around you right now.
And if that's the case, it doesn't matter if I say yes or no, it's going to happen.
Right. Rand simply says, it's just that Loyal is my friend. Alar's response is, okay, that's fine, but Loyal is young. In human years, about your age, probably. Okay, he's saying to Rand. But you are Ta'Veren. So Loyal doesn't really have much agency here. He's getting sucked in your wake. I'm making you responsible. If he's going to go with you, you need to commit to see that he is delivered safely back to studying Shangtai when the pattern is done with y'all.
Yes, because Loyal has free will and choice in his actions so long as it continues along the path that Ta'Veren steer him on here.
Mm-hmm. And Rand agrees. He will see that done. And he kind of feels like, I just swore an oath or something, you know. But okay, that's what it takes. That's what I'll commit to. So,
I like to imagine here, just imagining that this is the moment of, Loyal, we're giving you the ultimate plot armor. We're just saying, Ta'Veren say you have to make it through to get back to the steading. Is it actually going to be useful or anything? But we're trying to do that for you, because we like you.
Well, with that, it's time to head to the Waygate. They exit the mound, and Loyal scrambles to his feet as they appear. Huron runs off to fetch the rest of the Shannara soldiers. Loyal, he's like, Rand, what did they say? What did they say about me? And he learns, you're allowed to come with us.
Yeah, you're good.
Loyal's like,
wait, really?
I imagine he's like, yes!
No, he's more of a, yes.
But at the same time, he's actually sitting there going, look what Aerith gave me. He's playing with this flower, and he is still taken.
He's smitten.
Absolutely. He's fallen hard for this girl. He's whipped. Nice. Yeah, totally. He is head over heels. The group proceeds to leave the Ogier town then, and just as they have left, now Huron and the Shannara soldiers come up, and then eventually the elders point to the Waygate. Not very far, like they've just made it outside the steading.
And they're like, it's right over there.
And Rand's like, okay, so, I kind of thought something would, happen. I'd feel different leaving. But remember, there was that sense when they came into the steading, and they didn't feel anything different as they left. But Rand kind of does a little self-check then. It's like, oh yeah, hey, there's the source. I can sense it again. So apparently there is a different feeling coming in than there is going out. But all right, here's the Waygate. Alara invites the group to approach it. She says, I feel no need to draw any closer. We don't want anything to do with the ways.
Yeah, we closed those off for a reason.
Yes, Varen steps up. She removes that trefoil leaf to open it. And as the gate begins to open, Rand sees the blackness.
Well, shit.
Yeah, not that silver again. It's Mockingjin! And he shouts out to close it. Varen quickly does, startled. Varen's baffled because, the black wind doesn't do this. It had been waiting back in Cairhien.
Yeah.
And that was an anomaly. She wrote that off. Surely it wasn't waiting for you guys. But now it's here again?
That's okay. It's only two things. This is a coincidence. They have to go to a third one and try it again, and then it's a pattern.
Yeah. Rand has got to be like, I told you so. Now do you believe me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, now what? Well, first of all, we got this thing closed again. Okay. Whew. We're safe.
Good reaction time on Varen on that.
Yep. Unlike some people who just drop the leaf and back away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're at an impasse now. They have no access to the ways. It will take months to follow Pat and Fain to Tome and Head. They consider, well, what about some other waygates? Where else could we find a waygate?
And Varen's just like, nah. If it was waiting here, it followed us to wait here. It's going to be waiting at all the other ones too.
Mm-hmm. Huron suggests then, wait, I got the answer. Let's use a portal stone.
I like to think it's a record scratch freeze frame. What? As everyone goes, I mean, yeah, but like, what?
Varen acknowledges that would be a possibility. And I do know some things about portal stones. Alara is like, we're pretty sure the knowledge of how to use these things have been lost, but no, they've been there. Rand, Huron, Loyal, they've been in a mirror world, but Varen is basically, well, it was a very specific comment. I want to quote it. She says,
and I want to tear it to shreds.
The brown Aja knows many things, and I know how the stones may be used. Yeah, break down that
There are
Isidinus.
three main chunks to just tear this apart. First off, Brown Aja knows many things. Totally good and fine, right? Mm-hmm. She then says, and I know. Therefore, the two halves of these statements are not necessarily related.
Right.
The Brown Aja knowing things doesn't necessarily mean the Brown Aja knows anything about these stones.
Okay.
Varen then says, I know how the stones may be used. She said may. She didn't say she knows how to use the stones. She doesn't say she can use the stones.
Right.
She says that, she knows how they may be used.
Mm-hmm.
I could say I have a vague idea that someone needs to be able to channel to use it and say, I know how it may be used.
I can say, I know how I may be able to get to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I know how to get to the moon or that I'm going to get to the moon. It's a perfect example of how Aes Sedai, the truth you hear may not be the truth you think you hear. Yeah. Unfortunately, Varen knows of no portal stone close by. So, Rand, do you know where the Kinslayer's dagger one is? Can you get us back there? That's maybe the closest. And he's like, yeah, I think I can find it. But then Alara speaks up, says, hey, no, actually, there is one quite close.
Yeah, we don't remember how to use them or how they would be used, but, we know where it is.
Yeah, I can take you right there now. And the chapter ends with Varen. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, and the pattern provides what is needful. So it's like it was meant to be.
Taviran.
And they quickly proceed to the stone. That's the end of chapter 36. Let's move to chapter 37. What might be?
We're making pretty decent time for us.
We are.
Feels like the early days.
Alar leads the party to the portal stone, and it really was not far away at all. They all circle around it. It's a tall pillar of gray stone. Alar shares it had fallen over when they found it. You know, it was laying on the ground. And they stood it back up, but they couldn't move it. It was like it was stuck to this one location. It resisted being moved.
I'm a little curious as to what that actually means. Like, if they had to stand it back up, clearly they could move it to an extent. But was it like they couldn't pick it up? Because clearly they picked it up to tip it back over. But did it, like, after they tipped it over, it got stuck and it couldn't move it again? Or did they tried picking it up and it hit an invisible wall? Or did it teleport back? Or,
you know, maybe as I might see it, it's where it's in the ground is where it's stuck. So it fell over, but its base was still in the same location. So they're able to stand it back up. But if they were to try to move from the base, it's not budging.
But what you're saying there is, like, it was broken into two pieces. So they would have had to fix it, and they don't know how these things are made or used, so how would they have fixed it? I have to think it fell over in, like, an intact hole.
Mm-hmm. Hard to say. Because I don't think it was broken. It was just leaning, it had just fallen over. So, I don't know.
So, to me, I'm just like, maybe they couldn't get it off of the ground, but they could move it and shift it enough. They got enough that they tipped it back over, and then it was, like, a fixed.
And maybe it's more of a general region where it's stuck, as opposed to one specific hole, you know.
I want to know the, like, specific logistics of this, but I have to almost wonder if it's like a sentient magic item of sorts, where it was agreeing with getting picked back up and tipped over,
nice.
So it let itself be moved, but, like, as soon as it was getting carried away,
Thanks,
it
I'm good now.
became ridiculously heavy, impossible to move.
Maybe. Varen at this point wishes Alar well, but there's no time to waste. We need to use the portal stone now, so Alar bids them farewell. She notes that much that happens in the world passes the Ogier by untouched in our steadings, but she fears Tarman Gaiden won't do that. She wishes them all well, and then has one last look for Rand, and he reads into that. That's, remember what you promised, take care of our boy. And then she departs. Now, for using the stone.
Yes.
Varen asks Rand to join her right at the stone. You know, they're in this big loose circle around it, but now, okay, come right up to it with me. And she says it loudly, saying, "You have been transported by a portal stone more recently than I." What another great line.
Uh-huh.
Because Rand joins her, and he's like, Oh, so you've used a portal stone before. You're not actually expecting me to channel to use it. That's great.
And Varen just, like, turns to him and, are you kidding me?
Really? Yeah.
No, look at this thing. Do you think I could use this?
She actually breaks down Aes Sedai talk for once. She says, I've never used one. Thus, your use is more recent than mine.
Because you've used one, period.
And then she does say, I'm not nearly strong enough in the one power to use a stone. But I have studied them, so I may be able to help you.
It's kind of crazy to me here that this gets mentioned, because Varen isn't, like, talked about as being particularly weak in terms of Aes Sedai necessarily, but she herself is saying she's not anywhere near strong enough. So,
and that's it. This is a technology from long before,
and it requires a ridiculous amount of power.
Your run-of-the-mill Aes Sedai is not going to be able to use it, even if they know how. Much power taken. So now we're going to put on a show. Rand notes, okay, I really don't know anything about the portal stone. In fact, the only symbol he remembers is what Selene had showed him was the symbol for our world, and I don't even see that on here. And this is where Varen's knowledge does come into play. She says, of course you don't.
She does know some things, yeah.
Yeah, because that would be a symbol you'd use in a different place
to
come here. But you're already here, so you don't need a symbol for going here when you're here.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. Don't worry about that, Rand. And then she
I
comments,
think of it like international phone numbers. I don't have to put +1 in if I'm calling someone in the U.S.
Because
I'm in the U.S.
That's right. Rand mentioned Selene, and this triggers a comment from Varen. Yeah, I would really like to meet that young lady. because she knows things that people don't know anymore about these stones. And particularly, Celine had referenced a book, and Rand has referenced the book she talked about, The Mirrors of the Wheel. And Varen's aware of that book.
But she's
also
aware that it supposedly didn't survive the breaking
there
of the world.
aren't any copies around. How could she have read this book? So there must be a copy somewhere, is what she's assuming now.
I piece these things together and go, Varen's more or less saying she read notes that somebody once took on this book, and that's how she knows about these stones, but she didn't have access to the actual book. So it's like second or third hand knowledge that she did have access to. So she knows some things, but not a whole lot.
Regardless, Varen does share, here's what I do know about portal stones. And she's trying to jog Rand's memory. As understood by Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends, the stones have the ability to transport the user to the same stone in other parallel worlds, what they call worlds that might be.
Worlds of if.
Yes, but also to other stones in other worlds. And they could be used like traveling, with a capital T,
to go from one stone to another in the same world.
Right. But just as no one remembers the trick of traveling, no one remembers how to travel using portal stones. They just know it can be done.
Basically, all the things that would make just travel time get cut down in this series, nobody remembers them.
Well, and that's one of the problems with some old texts and scholarly research you do. When you're reading about something that people are writing about, and they're writing about it to people who already know all about it, they assume you already know the basics.
Oh, yeah.
So they never spell out the basics.
You can mention it, but you don't, talk about how you do each step. I don't talk about how to do basic arithmetic when I'm talking about quantum physics.
Right. You talk about quantum physics a lot?
No, but I did a little.
That's more than I have.
I've gotten a little further in the math and science stuff than you have.
Ah, that's true. I don't like the math and science stuff.
Calculus was strangely okay. It was weirdly better, in my opinion, than most of the math before it.
Well, nothing Varen has shared is helping Rand understand what to do. Not a bit. Varen finally shares that, okay, I do know the symbol for the portal stone on Toman Head, where we need to go. And I've actually physically visited that portal stone. Although visiting didn't teach me anything more about the stones. But I did go there. I did the travel.
What's it really matter?
But
so what? If we go to the right one, you're going to confirm we got to the right one?
Perhaps. And it helps confirm that this here, I'm pointing right at this stone, this is the symbol for Toman Head. Okay, I can confirm that. She also shares another series of symbols, which she knows are symbols for other worlds, but she can't be sure which would be good ones to use. Some worlds have time traveling differently.
This is a conundrum and a potential problem.
Yes. If they go to a world where time actually goes the wrong speed.
So I did something weird in a D&D campaign where they're in this pocket dimension thing, and every time they went through a door, time was going to move differently. And it was either going to move up to 20 times faster or 20 times slower. And so they were constantly trying to figure out and mess with, okay, we got to make sure that only a couple hours goes by in the real world, not 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a conundrum that they're seeing even within worlds that are supposedly safe. And there's plenty of these that may not be safe.
Yeah, if they get to a world like the one where Rand and Loyal and Huron already were,
that's great.
That'd be a win, because they could travel the distance much faster than otherwise.
If they get to one where there's no oxygen in the atmosphere, or there is no atmosphere, they're dead.
Yeah, there's all sorts of possibilities. So, what do we do? And basically, she asks Rand, so, are you a gambler? Because what you're going to have to do is guess which one of these to take us to. Great! Rand is like, this is nuts! This is insane! I could kill everybody, because you just want me to take a guess. But Varen says, and she has some logic here, she says, you are the Dragon Reborn. So, you can die, but I don't believe
that you'll die now.
The pattern is going to allow you to die now doing this, because the pattern is not done with you. The wheel is not done with you. So whatever guess you take is going to work out in some way. Now,
At least
at
enough
least
that you
for
don't
him,
die. The rest of us might all die, but you'll live, kind of, maybe.
And as he continues to hesitate, she takes a cheap shot. She's like, are you willing to do nothing and let your friend Matt just die? Because if he doesn't get the dagger, yeah, that's
Thanks,
cold.
Baron.
That's cold.
Thanks.
So what we have is Rand staring at the symbols, making a decision on completely random and likely pointless grounds. He practically wants to laugh. He's gambling everybody's lives on just this wild guess. Varen calls everyone over to close the circle, get nice and close to us all. And then Varen makes this show of preparing to use the portal stone and places both her hands on it. And Rand sees her watching out of the corner of her eye. It's like, okay, come on, I'm ready. Yeah. So Rand channels into the symbol he has selected. And, as the book says, the world flickered. Now, what happens is what Wheel of Time fans have come to call the flicker scene.
It's a fun little name.
Yeah. And basically, Rand doesn't know what he's doing.
Not at all.
And whatever he tried to do, it's not quite what he should have done.
Not at all.
In the midst of the next few things that everyone experiences, Varen shouts out, and it in the book, it's in broken chunks. I'm going to just put the sentences together. She says, something is happening. Something is not right. Something is wrong.
Okay. No shit, Varen.
But she can't do a thing about it. They are all sucked into whatever Rand has done. From Rand's perspective, and understand everyone is going to have a similar experience.
Their own version of something.
But here's what Rand goes through. He experiences alternate life possibilities and literally lives out what could have been if he'd made a different decision, if something had changed. And it's mind-boggling when you think about this. He experiences full lives. Okay, so here's the first one. We're just going to join Rand on his journey. Flicker. Rand is back on the farm with Tam. The night of the Trolloc attack. Rather than running out of the room when Tam told him to run, Rand pulls his belt knife and goes to help his father.
And he gets stabbed.
Yep, stabbed with a sword, run through, and he hears a voice whisper in his head, I have won again, Lews Therin.
Good job, Rand. You died.
Flicker. Rand lives in the Two Rivers, happily married to Egwene.
That's new.
Life has gone on outside the Two Rivers, and news reaches them. Things like wars and false dragons, but nothing really changes for them. They hear of Arthur Hawkwing's armies returning, breaking the old nations and conquering the White Tower, so that Aes Sedai are no more.
And apparently nobody still cares about Emond's Field.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference to them. Over the years, Rand struggles with dark moods and depression and a wasting illness. But Egwene helps him through these things, partly by using the skills she learned from Nynaeve and becoming Emond's Field's wisdom. But after many years, Egwene passes away. And Rand's illness then grows worse, and his moods blacken, and he rages at times about how things are not as they were meant to be. And then finally, a time comes when the Trollocs and Fades burst out of the blight in numbers beyond anything that's ever been known in history. And the new masters of the world are overwhelmed, and the evil marches everywhere and finally to the Two Rivers. Rand, he answers the call to defend their land along with pretty much everyone else, even the women, even a lady with a frying pan probably. And they meet this horde at the Terran, and
Rand dies again, and here's again. I have won again, Lews Therin. And we get another flicker.
Rand was inconsolable when Egwene died just a week before their wedding.
So Rand's not dead yet, but Egwene is.
Both Tam and Nynaeve, they try to console him at her death, but there were no answers. Nynaeve couldn't explain at all why Egwene had suddenly just died screaming. All Rand knew was that he couldn't stay. He had to get away. So Tam, he gives him a heron-marked sword that he had somewhere, and he teaches him how to use it.
Oh, that would have been nice.
And he gives him no explanation of where it came from, how I know how to use it even. But once Rand is competent, Tam gives him a letter that may get him into the army of Ilion, and encourages him, return to me someday. Well, unfortunately, Rand has his money and his letter stolen in Barillon. He almost has the sword stolen, but no, he managed to hang on to that. One. He meets a woman there.
Yes.
Min.
We've met this woman.
And she tells him crazy things about his future. So outrageous that he leaves Barillon to get away from her, and eventually ends up in Camelin.
But he's still good with that sword. He's still got it. So the skill lands him with the Queen's Guard.
Yeah.
He rises high amongst those ranks and eventually finds himself guarding the daughter heir, Elaine.
And he's troubled by odd thoughts of how things were supposed to be, perhaps between him and her.
But nothing comes of that.
Rand does develop a dark reputation serving in the guards. He's a man of violent moods.
Some people would even say he's mad.
And indeed, he is mad. But in light of the times, no one cares, as he seems to be excessively lucky in battle. And why is he lucky in battle, Zach?
I don't know. Maybe just because he figured out something about himself in the midst of battle at one moment.
Yes, he can channel.
Which is ridiculous.
We're in a world with false dragons popping up like weeds. It's a very dangerous place, but Rand always seems to come out on top because he uses his channeling abilities to tip the scales in his
Nothing
direction.
crazy, no giant fireballs or anything, but enough that a sword that should have hit him gets slightly pushed out of the way, or someone fails to dodge one of his swipes. Just enough.
Eventually, Rand develops a wasting disease, but he doesn't care. Nobody cares. Because at that time, word comes out that Arthur Hawkwing's armies have returned to reclaim the land.
Great timing.
Rand leads 1,000 men to face this foe, and they march out over the misty mountain, the mountains of mist,
Yeah,
not the
not
misty
the Misty
mountains.
Mountains.
Wrong series. The mountains of mist, and then he leads the shattered remnants back over the mountains of mist because they get their tails handed to them. And they march all the way back to Camelin, fighting the rear guard. They're basically being chased all the way. When they get to Camelin, the queen, now Elaine, she's vowing not to leave Camelin, not to abandon her people and her city, even though most of the people are getting out of Dodge. And Rand, he will not abandon the queen.
And neither will most of the Queen's Guard that's left.
Correct. So they have a final stand, the battle for Camelin. And during that, Rand takes the power, the one power, and he channels it like never before. He's flinging lightning and fire at the enemy, but they're doing the same thing.
They're flinging lightning and fire back.
And eventually, the wall he's standing on gets blown out from under him. He falls, dies, broken and bleeding, and hears a voice whisper,
I have won again, Lews Therin.
Flicker. And the text goes on to note Rand experiencing hundreds of lives.
Lots of different variations and varieties.
More than you could possibly count. But again, he's living all of these lives. So we're talking years of his experiences that feel completely real to him.
And in all of these, he dies.
Whether in
Sometimes
battle,
he dies in battle, yeah.
Maybe he's executed for
Sometimes.
a crime or for being a false dragon.
He just lives a nice, long, full, and healthy, happy life.
Dies an old man in bed.
Never even knows he can channel sometimes.
Other times he proclaims himself the Dragon Reborn, and then it all goes south eventually.
But either way, no matter what he does, he always dies, and he always hears that voice.
I have won again, Lews Therin. And finally, Rand's contact with Saidin ends, and he falls to the ground, half numb. Now you just picture, you have lived hundreds, thousands of lives, and in your brain now is the memories of all of these.
Yes and no. So, like, I hear ya. I see ya. The human brain is not made to be able to contain that much.
It's
And-
probably going to quickly dribble away.
In each of those moments, in those life moments that he lives through, he's not remembering the other ones while he's experiencing each one, as far as we're aware. He gets little senses of it's not how it's supposed to be, but he's not remembering each and every one. So it's more real than if he just dreamed, but he can't clearly remember everything.
But it leaves him feeling very overwhelmed and very screwed up. You know, there's a blah.
Yeah, and looking around, everybody's in a similar state.
Yeah, people are on the ground, they're struggling. He hears somebody throwing up. People have this wide-eyed, shocked look on their faces. Varen is even there, trying to get up onto her hands and knees. I mean, they've all been totally messed up. And Rand asks, What happened? And Varen notes it was a surge of the one power, that Rand must learn to control it. He had so much power pour through him and into that portal stone that it just it went completely like this. And she says, using that much power could burn you to a cinder.
I'm sorry, Varian. You didn't tell him what he was supposed to do. You just told him to channel into the thing.
And I'm not exactly trained. When Rand speaks of all the different lives he lived, Varen shares that they were each seeing truly what could have been had different choices been made. And as there are an infinite number of choices that could be made at different times in your lives, so there are an infinite number of ways things could have turned out.
Wheel of Time multiverse confirmed.
Yes. Rand is impacted by what he's gone through. And probably one of the things that's sticking in his head the most is that whisper he'd hear at the end of each life.
I have won again, Lews Therin.
Who's Lews Therin? He knows who Lews Therin is, but why does he keep hearing this voice? And that's got to be troubling to him, especially when he's trying to deny that he's the Dragon Reborn. But everybody else has had all these other things they've experienced too. We don't get into it a lot, but there are certain reactions from certain people where clearly they're feeling troubled by what they saw. Varen then gets practical.
Pragmatic.
Yes. And says, okay, the important thing is we're here. This is Toman Head. This is where we meant to be. However, look around. By the look of the trees, we can see it's autumn now, not spring. We've lost easily 4 months on this trip. Then Varen goes around and tries to calm people. And as needed, she uses the one power for some sort of healing, ease their stress, their anxiety. But there's trauma on people all over the place. Once Varen has done what she can, they all get on their horses again. Varen announces loudly that they are on Toman Head. He's already said it to Rand, but now to everybody.
That's good.
But the larger towns are to the west, and if the Darkfriends are here, that's where they will be found. So let's be off. And as they go, Rand hopes to still find Fain. Because, what if Fain had given up? If it's been months now, is Fain assuming that he's not coming and he'll follow up on his previous threat? This wasn't mentioned in this episode, but that he's going to go wreak havoc on the two rivers and kill everyone that Rand cares about.
And even if he hasn't given up, with that months of time, that was what they were concerned about. What if he'd found a way to open that box and found the stuff inside of it? What if they're just too late?
What if it's all moot now? Absolutely. So with that worry, off we go. And that's the end of the chapter. That's the end of our content this time. Is there anything in particular you'd want to comment on or highlight from what we covered today, Zach?
I really, really, really wish that even if it was just like a little addendum here and there or something, a little short novella, we got to see a lot of those other lives. A lot of the other, not other lives for Rand necessarily, but a similar experience for each of the people who went through. Because I think it gives us a lot of little things, especially as we read further in the series, that give us an understanding about Rand and the way his life does go or doesn't go, or how it could have gone. I would have loved to see that for all the other characters as well.
Yep. I mean, it's a 15-book series already, but we could have written a whole little short stories about all the others.
A little 5-6 chapter thing with some of the mainer characters that we know of there.
Indeed. Discord is asking a nice question here. Something to ponder about. He heard Rand in the Portal Stone experiences. He kept hearing that voice at the end. Is he really hearing Baalzamon every time, or is this just something in Rand's head? Well, that's where we'll end the content here. Of course, after our final notes here, we will move into the spoiler room. And we'll each spoil something from this episode. But before we do that, again, we want to thank everyone for joining us for these 3 chapters and ask that you, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, spread the joy, share about our podcast, and wherever you listen to it, if you can go on and give us a rating, throw some stars at us, write a review. I mean, stars are easy. Just click.
We just wind up and aim. You can even make a fun game out of it. See if you can land on our picture.
Yeah, I mentioned all these downloads that we have already, and yet we only have 5 ratings so far. Now, they're all 5s, which is
take
great, but, please, people, help us out. And
Tell us what you
give us
think.
a little more. Give us a little more love.
And if you want to talk to us a little more directly, there are a number of ways to contact us, be it our email, FantasyForTheAges@gmail.com.
Or get in our Discord server, like Jordo has been with us here throughout the episode today. That's on Discord, where people can, if you are a patron of our podcast, you can join us for the live recordings. But even without being a patron, you can interact with us directly on all sorts of fantasy fiction content on our Discord server. So I'll have a invite link in the show notes, so you can get on there.
You can come see how we interact and chat on Twitter. Occasionally hang out on Facebook, but not very much.
More like jump in, jump out.
Yeah. It's a scary place. And if you want to see any of our various drink recipes that we mention, you can check those out on our Instagram page.
And again, if you want to know more information about how to support us as a patron on Patreon, there will be a link to our Patreon page there too. We're not in this for the money, but anybody who does support us as a patron, that little bit helps offset the costs of our equipment and our hosting fees and things that, are there. So if you want to help like that, we sure do appreciate it.
We appreciate any and all of your continued support.
All right. If you're not sticking around for the spoiler room, time to go. See you next time. Bye.
But if you are, welcome to
the spoiler room. All right. So let's spoil something. Rock, paper, scissors. Oh, he crushed me right away the first time this time.
So, the voice.
Yes.
My spoil this time is actually going to be more multiple theories rather than a direct spoil. We hear the voice, I've won again, lose there, and time again, whatever. There are a couple different things that this can be coming from. One theory that I've seen and kind of enjoyed is that part of why this gets messed up is because it is actually Baalzamon stepping in, and he actively did something to mess with the stone or what Rand was doing. And so yes, he's there and impacting, and that's why he's able to be talking. A different possibility, and I do think in both of these first two, it is actually him. The second here is we follow the line of thinking that led him to the dark as well, which is an inevitability. This idea that time and time again, we fought this battle countless times in every turning of the wheel, and so every time, every turning of the wheel at the end, he's still standing there. And it's not necessarily he's physically there, but it's almost like those two souls are inevitably entwined. So when one goes out, the other's there to say that every time. Now, the final thing of this is my personal thought and hope, and that's that even if it is Baalzamon's voice that we're hearing, that Rand's hearing, it's not him speaking. It's the Dark One. To me, this moment, while having over and over these
So you don't think
flashes,
it's Baalzamon's voice, it's the Dark One.
I think it's the Dark One using Baalzamon's voice. Baalzamon's the one Baalzamon is the voice. But he's not the one really sending these words. Not really. And the reasoning that I kind of go to think this is that, in a way, this isn't really part of the pattern. They're experiencing this and all the possibilities of the pattern, but portal stones in and of themselves kind of exist out of pattern. And to have something really be able to interact with that, it needs to itself be outside the pattern. And so in a very let the Lord of Chaos rule kind of sense, the Dark One is putting these seeds and these pieces in with the intent to drive Baalzamon and Rand towards a further confrontation. But this also then goes to
But he never calls him Rand.
I know. If you call them Rand, it's targeted at him. If he calls him Lews Therin, it has the sense that it's coming from Baalzamon. This also kind of ties into me thinking that the Creator and the Dark One are the same, though, because it drives a need for that confrontation, for the balance of good to evil being a necessary thing. And just because the Dark One is evil doesn't mean that the necessity that is being driven in the story is actually bad. A little bit of a weird angle thing there. The last possibility I'm going to throw out, this is a lengthy
and you're making my brain hurt.
I'm sorry. The last possibility that I'm going to throw out here is one where it is nobody other's voice technically. It's Rand, kind of. This is possibly one of the first times we technically actually hear the influence of Lews Therin, or rather Rand's madness. He's sucking so much power and getting so much taint in that moment that the madness is coming through and manifesting as a voice that he hears as Baalzamon's taunting. Kind of this last moment of Luz Theron's life being told that I won again, and that's manifesting through to Rand.
Okay.
None of those are going to be confirmed in any way, so it's not really a spoiler, it's just everything that I said has spoiler possibilities.
Okay. It's spoiler theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I get to throw in my random crazy theories in the spoiler room too, because I shouldn't really do those in every place.
Well, I'm going to spoil. Instead, I'm going to talk about Matt.
Okay.
I love that comment that was it was clear foreshadowing when he's, talking about how things really should be with women, and yeah, Matt, come on, because he's going to go ahead and end up married. Before married, we get the whole deal with Tylan.
Yeah.
He becomes the boy toy, the pretty, and he has no control over the situation at all, which is apparently his biggest nightmare. Because he's the one that does the chasing. He's the man is the one who does these things. Yeah, you have no bloomin' idea. So he ends up in a culture in Abu Dar where, no, the women run all this. That is the way it works. What? But then he goes on to have his whole experience with Tuon and ends up married to her because of things he says. So I guess he kind of did it, but he has no control over it now because that's not what he meant to do, but it doesn't mean what he meant to do. This is what is now done. And he has no control. It's still the women deciding for him.
His relationships are messy at best, but not often the way that he envisioned them being.
I mean, all three of the boys are going to have some very interesting relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
one where communication is terrible, one where it's actually a polyamorous kind of deal that none of them actually get married, and one that is just multiple weird things that happen.
But in all three cases, who they end up with is really decided by the women.
Yeah.
The boys are just doing what they do, and the women are the ones that make the real decisions.
While I will agree, I'll give Perrin a little bit of cred. Just a little. Because if Perrin wasn't choosing, Barrelane was really trying to step in there.
Well, yeah, Perrin was into
and
Fail,
there was
it's true.
Plenty of time where Fail was captured and gone.
But remember, early on, Perrin wanted nothing to do with Fail. And definitely wanted her to go away.
But
and she's the one that, I like this.
That changed very quickly.
Yeah.
Very
by the
quickly.
end of Dragon Reborn. Yeah, for sure.
When it changes in the matter of like 4 or 5 chapters, that's still kind of first impression.
She's still the one running most of what happens in that relationship.
Oh, yeah.
As will be the case for Rand, as he ends up, feeling like a dirty old man for being in love with 3 women. And they work things out amongst themselves and tell him how it is. And they do that individually, but then they do that collectively, and he's at their mercy. He really has no control or decision on this.
He also never marries any of them. The closest that you come is maybe Avienda, because their marriage ceremony customs are a little different.
He never laid a bridal wreath. She never laid a bridal.
She did.
Oh, she does.
But
did he pick it up?
Before they lay with each other, and she gets pregnant at the end.
Oh, man.
Lots of spoilers in the spoiler room.
Woo! But again, for Matt to be the one that so strongly speaks about how this doesn't happen to us.
I like to think of it as a moment of Matt, but just being in denial. Everyone else knows that he's wrong.
So Matt's got it coming. He has got it coming.
He had it coming.
All right, so that was fun. It's always fun to let loose and just talk about what do we think, what is really going on, and what do we know is going to come. And so if you stuck around for the spoiler room, hope you enjoyed a little deep dive into some of that relationship chaos that we know is coming. Jordo, thanks for being with us here in the Discord server and all the things that you threw in here as well that definitely impacted some of the things we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Love that you had the time to be with us today. Anything else, Zach?
Oh, I got nothing.
All right. Well, yeah, after all you just put out there, again, my brain is... But good stuff.
If
good
at some point anyone who sticks around and listens wants to chat more in our full spoiler area on Discord, I'll hop in at times and chit-chat further on my ridiculous theories that are probably wrong.
There you go. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you next time.